When guys that smash things get together with guys that design things, some really cool advancements can come out of that. And today we are talking about one of those things, and that is going to be in the way of this ARX light fighter here from X2 Development Group, which is a very, very cool setup. And of course, by guys who smash things, I mean special ops guys out there who have spent enough time behind things like this in austere environments to know what needs to be improved, how to improve them, and maybe just little things that make your overall experience with them better out there in a crazy environment or just having fun out on the range. And this sweet piece of anodized flat dark earth is one of those advancements where really cool guys got together with really cool guys that design things and made a lot of interesting small changes to overall just take the standard AR platform kind of to the next level. And one thing I noticed right away is this thing is definitely different out on the range. Everything from the feel of it, the contours of it, to the way that you can run this thing with all of the small design features that have been built into it. Now, before we get into all of the goodness that the ARX Light Fighter from X2 Development Group is, we have got to give some love to the Patreons. I thank all of you. I love you for all of the support you've given the channel over the past couple years, and I just cannot thank you enough. And of course, to the main sponsor of today's video, which is going to be HRT Tactical. They make that soft kit for your hard lifestyle. Great company, great gear that is very functional, easy to use out in the market. My chosen gear that I run around with for self-protection, and all around some of the most modular gear you're going to be able to get out there at a price you can actually afford. What exactly is the ARX Light Fighter? As you can see, this has a very different look from the right to the left side. You surely can see those ambidextrous controls on there, but it's quite a bit different inside and obviously on the outside than your standard AR. But from the buttstock to the business end out here, let's talk about what we get with this thing. We're gonna get B5 systems, stock and grip, which are some of my personal favorites. You're gonna get a standard buffer and buffer spring inside there. You're gonna get a QD mount on that back plate right there with some really cool designs built into it. We'll talk here in a second about full ambi controls. And this thing is super easy to activate and very, very minimalist design and smoothly operates out there on the range once you get used to it. Integral trigger guard, Rise armament drop-in trigger, which is very, very solid and better than most things that are going to come in a standard rifle out there. A flared and angled mag well, which helps with those reloads. You get the Jackal charging handle, which is very different and engineered to be snag-free as compared to standard charging handles or ambidextrous charging handles. And as you can just see by the lines on this thing, it is very different than most things out there in just about every way. Now, to compare this to something as far as the fit, finish, feel, and the quality of the controls that's already out there in the market, we're in that Radian Mod 1 territory. And if you didn't notice by that B-roll, you're gonna get a little bit of a wider rail right there to get your hand around, and it's gonna have QD points both up here in the front and here on the back, which are gonna be steel because you don't wanna go putting a steel QD point into your aluminum rail. Eventually you're going to destroy your rail. Now those are those basic overall specs, but we have got to take a closer look at this thing so you can really see all the small design details in here to get a true appreciation for what X2 Development Group has actually done with the ARX Light Fighter. All right, everybody, if you like seeing content on new things like the ARX Light Fighter right here or other cool stuff that happens on the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. That's gonna do a couple of things for you. One, it's gonna make sure you never miss a video on something new and cool that comes out in the market. Two, it's gonna help push this video to other people out there, some of which maybe have never seen content on things like this, which could maybe open their minds up a little bit and just do us all a favor and kind of promote what we love and enjoy out there when it comes to the Second Amendment. And if you think you are subscribed, give me that discount double check to make sure you still are. All right, first up here on the X2 Light Fighter, let's talk about the snag-free design because they've pretty much thought about that everywhere in the design. Let's start here with the trigger guard. It is an integral trigger guard, but you can just see that beautiful machine work all the way around this. And think about wearing a glove, or if you've got longer fingers like me, just how rounded off everything here is to deflect things that are going to snag away, but help you get your finger inside that trigger guard. And that carries through just everywhere in the design of this lower receiver. If you look right there on the sides, it's almost kind of rounded right here, and it comes from a low point to a high point and then back to a low point to deflect anything that would snag away from the magazine release, away from the ambi control right here, away from the ambi controls on this side. And of course, that safety is designed very snag-free in the exact same way. And the machine work, as you can tell, is just phenomenal. I mean, this is one of the smoothest, nicest lower receivers I have ever seen. And they've given you a very generous mag well right there. And it's kind of set up in this arc design, which kind of, when you're coming from the side, helps you get that magazine in there a little easier. And if you're not putting a mag well on a modern AR lower, I mean, why the heck not at this point? So talking about those ambi controls real quick, you can see it's a push-pull right here. So if you are right-handed, all you have to do to lock the bolt back is you hold it down and you can see the lock pops up. And if it's already locked up, you just push up and that releases the bolt, making it very easy. Now, if you are a lefty, here's your magazine release right here. And then if the bolt is locked up like that, you can reach over and push the standard lock, although you do have to have some pretty long fingers or you'd have to kind of break your grip and reach up. But this is a 100% ambidextrous, lefty ready setup. And I know some left-handed people out there are huge fans of that. Everything down to just takedown pins and pivot pins here, nicely knurled on the edges right there. So very easy to get your hand on, even on the rear. Yet look how minimalist it is, yet still so easy just to get a little bit of purchase with your fingers and pull it out. And then of course that safety follows through with the same design. Got that B5 furniture, which I'm a huge fan of. And even the back plate right there, anti-rotation back plate on it. And there's actually 3 pins inside this back plate, so it could never rotate on you. You'd have to beat on it pretty hard. And then we've got a very solid trigger in here. We will do some pulls in a second, but that's just a sneak peek for you. Now the upper follows suit with that snag-free design. You can just see beautiful machine work here all throughout, and you'll see that it also has an almost monolithic design to it. It is 2 pieces, but the upper rail here is bolted directly onto an extension of the upper receiver, so it is extremely rigid. And again, you can just see everything has been designed to be absolutely as snag-free as possible, where the controls fit in. And the machine work, I mean, it's just beautiful. Just the way everything fits together is insane. Now pay attention to that charging handle because it looks a lot different. You can see the activation is on the inside right there, a little bit different. The reason for that is you are not going to snag that charging handle. Okay, take my thumb off the bolt. I'll give it some pressure, but you are not going to snag that on a piece of kit or gear and get it off until you hit the inside of that lever. As you can see there, it'll come right out. Once you activate, I'll do it with my pinky, right? Comes right out, yet when you snag it on a piece of kit or gear, it's not coming out at all. So just beautiful machine work on this thing. And something that's a real treat up here is that this bolt and carrier is just so light because it's titanium, just absolutely crazy. And that helps lighten the system up so you can run less gas. But even look in there, properly staked, but look at the bolts they're using. They've got the knurled edges on there, which ensure this thing is never going to come loose on you. And it is just something to look at and to feel because of that weight. I mean, it's just so crazy light that it's pretty crazy to actually feel this thing. Now I'm going to break this down so you can see everything that's going on underneath the rail. Quickly, before we break that down, let's talk about your parts that you're going to get with this. You're going to get a couple of wrenches. I'll leave that one wrench back in there. This is to take down your rail with. You can see that your QD points here are steel. They're inlaid into the rail, so you don't have to worry about tearing up your aluminum when you put a steel QD point in there, which most people don't understand. This is your Allen head to take your rail completely off. It is a quick change system. You'll have your other Allen heads for your various gas block setups. And then these are your interchangeable gas block ports right here. Just an ingenious way to do it. And they did this for a very specific reason. You can see the little hole right there. And that was for a DoD contract because they didn't want or didn't allow adjustable gas blocks. Well, this allows a quick field change to be adjustable extremely quickly within minutes and not be adjustable on the fly, I guess you could say, but still be adjustable on the fly, therefore meeting that contract. And then of course you'll get a magazine and your other you know, lock and everything you would expect. Now let's go ahead and get to that barrel and that rail. All right, so now that we have this broken down, let's talk about how it actually fits in. Like I said, on either side, you're gonna have your steel QD points, which are also what affixes the rail directly to the extension on the upper receiver. And as you can see, it's not just a pressure fit onto that extension of the upper receiver, it threads into it just enough to not contact the barrel extension, which could cause some accuracy issues, but enough to lock this in there so it is absolutely not gonna move. And then you have these triangular sections where the rail fits into it to lock it in even further. So absolutely very cool design. And I really think some other companies should take notice. And you can see those triangular sections that lock into that upper receiver and where it goes through. The rail is extremely light, even though I've got my Unity button right there, and I've got the mod light with the Surefire DO7 cap, dual activation in case your switch goes down. I've got some Patriot Machine wire routers in there, which are actually really, really cool. Patriot Machine covers right there on the rail for your hand, and then a stop right here and a Nomad Defense bottom rail, and then up here so you can lay your rail on a barricade or something and not destroy your rail. So ultimately a very cool setup. And then if you want to run your sling way out front, again, another steel QD point up there. Awesome setup. Now I know a couple of you guys have been staring at this barrel and that extremely heavy fluting that's going on here. So let's start right here. You can see the barrel nut affixes deep into the upper receiver extension right there. Again, your holes for that rail and everything in here has been lightened out as well. That's to trim weight because all of this right here adds a little bit of weight, so they had to trim it back. Now you'll see that is a straight gas tube on there, right? One of the things about a gas tube and how they curl up like that, that's a failure point in gas tubes. When you start running like say machine guns or something, that pinch in that gas tube, that change in direction can cause a hot spot and can actually blow out your gas tube, or it can blow out your gas block. Up there you'll see that is your quick change port right there. So one screw on each side, one screw there, and you are in business with a new gas block. And we ran these things hard a couple times and that did not back out or even come close to it. So that gas block is fixed, but at the same time adjustable. Now out on the end, we're gonna see their muzzle brake on it. And this is a good thing here, right? It's big, but this is specifically designed to be a muzzle brake, a flash hider, but also to divert gases extremely far forward and away from the end user or people to the left and right, because all of that concussion causes, you know, micro TBIs, right? So their design thought process here was to help the end user avoid concussive blast, because that stuff is cumulative and adds up over time. Now this fluting is insane. Look how deep that fluting is right there. It's a heavy profile barrel, and this was actually designed in conjunction with Crane Division to reduce heat signature and reduce heat dissipation, heat soak, all that stuff, to maintain that sub MOA accuracy this barrel is capable of, because it's got 300% more surface area all the way around that barrel. And it is definitely a sub MOA barrel. I watched a guy at Gunsight take a 16-inch version just like this one with this 1-10 from Ride-On, and he was 6 for 10 at a mile using 77 grain Sierra Match Kings with this thing. So that was pretty exciting to see out of a standard 16-inch style rifle like this. Now that barrel is nitrided 416R stainless steel, 1-7 twist, and it is sub MOA capable, obviously with that 77 grain either Black Hills or Sierra Match King ammunition. Probably Black Hill is going to be your best bet for that, but it is every single bit capable of doing that. Now let's go ahead and get this back together and let's do some trigger pulls with this, which is a Rise Armament trigger, so you guys can get a feel and a look at what it's going to be. You can see no movement. Sometimes you can get a little bit of movement back and forth depending on the lower receiver and how tight these drop-in style triggers. Again, this is a Rise Armament. So solid setup right here. Brake, here's your reset. Pretty solid. Brake, and you can feel that reset. That reset is pretty good. Pushes the finger forward. It's audible, tactile, so that is what you are looking for. We'll just go ahead. We'll use our new trigger gauge right here. Okay. And we'll give this 3 breaks. Now, I pull low because that's where your leverage is, right? Think about that. Okay, the trigger brake on that one going to be 1.82 pounds. We'll reset. I'll pull low again, then I'll do a couple high just so you guys can see the difference. 1.36. Okay, so since I'm pulling low, that's an exaggerated low number. Let's pull dead center about right there. And we'll jump up to 3 pounds 6 ounces, which is still very, very solid. Oop, slipped off. Let's reset. Okay. Pulled a little higher, 2.8. Let's go one more time. All right, 3.1, and that is just a very solid number for this thing. So a couple more things to talk about on the X2. All right, that range performance. So the ARX just chewed through all of the ammunition I threw at it. Whether it was 55 grain, 62 grain, 75 grain, 77 grain. I tried some of that match ammo in there. It ate it all. I didn't run any steel through it because I don't have any. I hate steel and I don't like putting steel in my ARs because they're really not meant to run steel. I don't care what your grandma told you. But the thing ran like a beast. It ran super flat and it ran stupid fast. So you can get this thing moving just not only with the design of it, but with that muzzle brake out there, the thing just stays on point. All those little design features just kind of come out to play when you're on the range, especially if you're wearing kit. You really get a feel not only for the anti-snag design of everything, but of course that ambidextrous design. Now, once you get used to actually using that ambidextrous setup right there, locking it back, pressing it up to release it, you can run this thing lightning fast. So if you put the time in with this rifle, it's probably gonna be the fastest one you're gonna run between the controls, the ability to not have to break your grip and just use your primary hand if you're right-handed. The barrel, the brake, everything that this thing is set up for is for speed and accuracy. And speaking of that accuracy, it is a sub-MOA capable rifle, but of course we all know accuracy is in the end user. Usually it's the person screwing it up, not the product. But I took this thing out to 450 yards. That was not a problem at all with that right-on 1 to 10 on there, which performed quite nicely as well. And then of course that up close work is gonna be super easy with how you can run this thing super flat and super fast. So overall, it's just an impressive rifle. One of the coolest things is 6 pounds. So with everything they've done to this, that big, heavy profile, but fluted barrel, the larger radius rail on there, and all of the design features in this thing, of course, not with all of your options on it, 6 pounds, and it runs like a heavier gun though. So even though it is that lightweight, which usually makes you kind of feel that recoil impulse a little bit more, either in your shoulder or in that muzzle rise, the design of this thing almost feels bolt gun-like. So that rail system, the way it locks in, just the way it fits together, it's hard to explain, but it feels like a solid piece of metal as compared to some cheap janky thing that kind of slops all over the place every time you pull the trigger. So I know that's kind of an end user feel thing and that can't be relayed across camera, but really it's just a crazy feeling out there. And those are the little things that kind of differentiate budget loose builds as compared to, you know, nicer, tighter tolerance things, but obviously that comes at a price. And for me, the coolest thing about the ARX Light Fighter and other rifles out here in this price class, like the Blackout Defense or the Radian Mod 1, you don't have to upgrade a single thing. Everything from the furniture, the charging handle, the trigger, the bolt carrier group, ambi controls, there is nothing you're probably gonna want to upgrade on this thing. So you put your accessories on it, you're 100% happy, and you just go to work out on the range. Now, talking about that price to be paid for something like this, $27.95. Now, I know some of you are just clutching the pearls, grabbing the heart, looking for an AED, calling 911 or whatever to get some help. But we have to remember this, okay? This is not a budget basic style build. There's a lot of different engineering going into this thing, and the way that this thing comes optioned out is not going to be cheap. Now, as somebody who's been broke more than once in my life, and I really do try to reach out and find things across the price spectrum that I would trust to do reviews on here on the channel, I don't think that this thing is overpriced at all because the way it comes and the way it's outfitted is super slick. Plus, if you go to the build list, there's a way over there where you can bring that price way down. So even though the ARX Light Fighter is not cheap, just because it's out of your price range doesn't mean that it's overpriced. However, I've got a couple of other things in that I will be going over very soon. One of which is the new PSA Saber line here. And I have to say, I am super, super impressed with this rifle. I am still running it. I want to get another 500 rounds through it, but I am very impressed with the PSA Saber line so far. And it is very much in the budget-friendly line. And then this one right here from Watchtower, and you can see it's got a pretty crazy muzzle brake on that right there. This is a PewView Special. My buddy Nick over there hooked me up with what he would want on his. Again, really impressed with this thing so far. And these more kind of affordable, budget-friendly builds that I actually am really enjoying will be on the channel very soon. Now go ahead and smash that subscribe button. Keep doing it on the range. Remember, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. I'll see you all on the next one.